Conversational Academy.
All right. Small group of people here today, I guess. Interesting, and that's I'm going to encourage everybody, and we'll shoot it out a million times because I think today is going to be very interesting. Actually, I'm very happy that we have Adi
Yeah.
as part of our little meetup here with an unlimited audience in the virtual world, but still so few people. But don't worry about it. Yeah. So how do we? Yeah, we met not too long ago. Actually, we had a bunch of calls and we talked about you guys obviously doing your wonderful voice course and bringing that onto our platform. We started talking about all the stuff that you're doing and what we're up to at Robocopy, soon Conversation Design Institute. And then we were like, yeah, let's hop on the virtual meetup, and then let's see. Soon we'll have your partner in crime on here as well, which I've already interviewed for the podcast as well. So
Ooh.
we're going to be like a very tight gang, one big
Yeah.
family here. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about the basics of voice, and like click this out the way. See, you got people. That's so interesting. People showing up late. Um, Talking about voice and emotional design, which
Great.
is something that's very interesting to us because obviously like our background is in behavior design, and we got things like the escalation prevention model, how to deal with angry customers in customer service, and you work with big tech companies around these things, around innovation and emotional design. So I'm very interested to hear what you're going to be talking about, and I think you're going to do a very
Sure.
big introduction about all the stuff that you've been up to.
Yeah.
So without much further ado, I think I'm just going to give the digital
Yeah.
floor to you and take
Great.
control and have fun, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Hans. I hope that you see my presentation.
Yes.
Everybody's like, yeah. So
Yeah,
we're good.
I'm
We're
feeling very lonely.
we're good to go. So I'm happy to be here and join you. And let's start. So I'm going to talk about emotional design, and my presentation is called "Hey Google, I'm Lonely." So I want you to. I just said "Hey Google," and then he
Oh,
came in. Like,
I'm just
yeah,
happy I'm
I'm
wearing
not talking
headphones.
to you right now. So I want you to imagine your first love, the first time you met your first love, and the first time you met him. Where was it? Maybe you remember how it looked like, or she. What did you talk about? What was it with this first meeting? Were you very young, or are you like older? Just imagine this first talk. And then I want you to imagine your favorite teacher at school and one of her lessons and what she taught you and what she talked about. And the last thing I want you to imagine is, if you have a kid, could you imagine his first words? So each one of you is just inside his own imagination. And I guess that you notice that you don't really remember the exact words, but you do remember what you felt and what are the emotions that were in this moment. And what I want to tell you is that language makes us human, but it's more than what we talk about in the text we're using. What is the content? Words are like vehicles for emotions. So we can communicate better when we are talking because we're delivering our emotional inside to someone else through the words. And that's why when we're talking maybe to babies, you know that even before they have words, you can talk to them. If you have a baby at home, just try it. And then you can have a verb, like do it some kind of voice, and the baby will answer with his voice. So they know to have this conversation of giving something and getting back this sound, because they know how to communicate and they know how to deliver emotions through sounds. And this is what we are all about as humans. And this is what makes us special. And this is how we build empires. This is how we build cultures. This is how we say, I love you. This is how we are delivering what we are to other people. And our relationship with machines has like a very big history. And we're thinking about what is this connection and what is it about for so many years. And we see that in literature, in this case in movies, and we want to have a relationship with these devices or machines. And only like a few years ago, we really had the ability to talk to the devices and they answer back just like humans. And this is a very special era that we can talk fluently, naturally to a device or to some kind of a machine, and it answers back. And this starts a relationship with the machines. It's not only that they have the voice to text and text to voice. It's not the technicalities. It's the fact that the first time we can talk to someone, which is not a human, and he could answer back. So it's like a beginning of a relationship, actually. Hi, I'm Adima Zolkario. I'm an innovation leader and voice design expert. And before I start telling you about voice and emotional design, I know there are many professionals out there that might ask yourself, who is she and why is she the one to talk about voice and in general, why is she here? So I want to tell you my story for a few minutes, if that's okay. So my story begins many years back when I was pregnant with my second child, and I was during my master's, and I worked in a company as a designer, and I wanted to change the world. I wanted to be at least as Steve Jobs changed the world, and I created this very successful product with a team, and I really loved that. And it all like came about that the company was very successful and they had lots of clients, and they didn't really want to innovate and to create something very, very different than what we had in the beginning. And I felt like I have no impact on the product because I did like very small stuff and very small details. And I felt actually like I'm a failure because I know that I worked for so many years and I studied in the university, and other like colleagues started startups and they created these massive products. And I was a bit disappointed, and I felt like I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough. And then a few months passed, and it's actually when I was with my baby at home after I was at home in my maternity leave, and I got a call, an unexpected call from my office. And they told me, you should come and meet the CEO, come meet the manager. And I was a bit suspicious, but you know, I was supposed to go. So I took my baby and I placed it inside my baby carrier. And we went together to the office. And I remember I opened his office a bit like fearfully. And the only thing I remember from this half an hour talk is that when he told me I'm fired, my chest pounded so fast that my baby started to cry because his chest pounded against it. And it was a shock for me. I was like in total shock. And then I went back. So you see, this is my baby and the second one. And I remember taking this picture, and we had like a rent and I need to pay for my studies, and I didn't know what the future holds for me. I was in total shock. You know, it's hard to find job when you have a small baby and you need to study as well. And I didn't know what will happen. And then what actually happened is something like very surprising for me. A friend called and he told me, I'm going to refer a client to you because I trust you. And I worked with a very innovative, successful product company called Clarizen. They are still here like today. So it means that they are very successful even today. And then something really amazing happened. And the manager from the startup called me, and the product manager, and he showed me the reports. So they gathered lots of data, which was not that common then. And he showed me what is the spike in registration from my work. And the first time I understood the impact of innovation powered by design was there. It's the first time I felt that I really matter and what I'm doing is really, really important. So I decided to work much harder and to work with more people, more product, create more value for successful companies, and to understand their clients and do something more and more. But then you can see some of my work here. but not all went really well. Back then, startups needed to fail on the way. There were so many like methods on how to innovate and what to really do, and they need to learn the hard way how to really succeed. So back then we didn't have that many other options. And when I saw them like failing, I said, okay, I need to do something more. So my design methods needs to be better, and I need to understand how startups works and how can we do something in a better way. And I learned so many other ways to innovate and to create successful products, and with so many other ways of doing things. And then it just happened. Like in the last 15 years, I worked with very successful entrepreneurs, and I've joined the accelerator of Google like 7 years ago. I'm teaching startups how to do creative products. And I talked all over the world and gave workshops, and I learned while executing and doing so much more with companies. And it was a very interesting and growing journey for me. And I know that you can be innovative and creative only while you're doing and learning and failing and doing again. So I work with so many clients like IBM and Google and Intel. And one of the things that I wanted to work on is to know how to innovate. And one of the fields that you can innovate really well is voice. So in the last like 3 years, I've been part of the Google experts for the assistant. And I'm part of a team of experts meeting the assistant team once a month, more or less, and giving them feedback. And you see here that I had like one talk with them when I went to San Francisco. So we had this show episode. And I created the voice strategy and design together with Sina that you talked about in the beginning. And I hope you'll enjoy this course really soon. And I'm doing voice design sprints too. So it's like a field that I started to work on like three years ago, and it's always growing more and more. And to understand AI and machine learning and voice is something that it's really interesting for me, and many of my clients are interested in that. So it's part of doing things differently. So what are we going to talk about this like more or less 40-30 minutes? It's like 4 parts. First, we're going to talk about the connection and love we have with these assistants. Then we're going to talk about the power of emotions when we create a product. Then we're going to talk about designing the connection and maybe what could be the future of that. Okay. In the middle, I will have like a stop if you want to ask any questions, because usually when I talk to people, I tell them that I come from Israel. And if anyone came to Israel, they know that we're not that polite and we cut people in the middle of the sentence. So I'm really used to that. So if you have any questions, you could write it down and Hans could tell me afterwards. And for me, a successful talk when I talk to people is when they stop me a lot. That means they're engaged and they're interested, and it's good for me. So feel free.
We can barge in whatever we want. I guess
yeah,
people do that too. We have that in
yeah, you should do that.
That's why we get along.
Yeah, that's good. In general, I think the Israelis and people from Amsterdam are very, very similar in a sense. So that's good for me. I always love to come and talk in Amsterdam. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story about a very good friend that is really into technology, and he has IoT devices all over his home, and he has like several Alexa devices on his, like in the bedroom, in the living room, in the kitchen, and he's really into like giving the telling him to open the boiler, and then he has hot water and so on. He's really into that. And he has a very small kid, and she's about 4, and she loves talking to Alexa, which is very important in Israel because people are usually talking Hebrew, not English. So Alexa doesn't understand Hebrew. So if you want your kid to know English, it's good that he will talk to Alexa, or she. And this small kid really fell in love with Alexa. And then one day they need to move their home to a new place. And they, packed everything, and everything is in the boxes. And then the kid tells him, will Alexa come with us? I really love Alexa. Will she be there? Because for her, it's like, yeah, she's another roommate, another one part of the family, just moving with them. And he told me the story, and I thought it's like, yeah, it's so cute that she thinks that she lives in the walls and in this house, and there she is. And for her, it's like a really tangible person. But when I think about it, it's more than her. Like everybody thinks about Alexa this way. And whoa, I missed one. And we know the adoption rates of these smart devices is really, really fast. You can see this graph. And just to have a comparison, it took about 7 years for the smartphones to get to about 50% of the population of the US in 7 years. Smart speakers took about 3 years, 2.5 years to get to so many households in the US. And we know that people are adopting new technology faster, but this is really fast growing thing.
How much of that do you think the price point of a smart speaker? Because an Alexa, you get an Echo Dot. It's like $100, right? Smartphones probably like 1,000 when they came out.
Yeah, I think it's connected to price, but it's connected to the fact that people are really like, I want to try it out. I want to see if it works. I want to see if I connect devices to it. And it's like something which is new. You're very excited to see something that you did not see before. So, and then it was very popular, you know, in Black Friday and all of that. And it started from there. And we know that it's going to be, we have right now a very small number of assistants. You know, we have Alexa, we have Cortana, Siri, the Google Home, and we have Bixby. So it's not that many, but we know we'll have much more. So we'll have more and more of these assistants, or you call them virtual beings, whatever. And we know that there'll be much, much more. And as you can see that the Adobe director of product said that this is the most important tech boom designers are ignoring. So most designers are still doing only screens and they are not aware of this very big boom. And he says that till 2023, we'll have 8 billion voice assistants. So I don't know where he got this number, but for sure, it's a lot of assistance from now to the future. So when people are hearing a voice, they automatically think about a person. And it shouldn't surprise us because we're built to a connection with a person. Because when our minds and brains were wired, they were wired for a connection with another human being or a group of human beings, actually. And for us, a voice is always someone and not something. And we are used to talking to someone. It's not only for a kid that when he talks to a character in a TV show and he thinks that he's there, or as I told you about Alexa, it's for everyone because this is what we're used to. And we know that people are thinking about Alexa and Siri as someone, because when there were someone had a survey and then asked about women tech leaders, and many of them said Alexa or Siri. And this touches another point for me, because there are so not many people, women in tech. And it's something that we need to attend to. So if we don't find anyone in tech other than, I know, which is not a device, I would say, it's really hard to think about a woman that could be in the tech world. So I just want to add to that 2 years ago, an author, she wrote a post about, she tested the devices and she tried to curse them. Most people curse the devices in the beginning, or maybe afterwards, because they want to test it out. Sometimes they are really mad because they didn't get the response, and sometimes they just want to have a joke, and sometimes they are really mad, and it's a way of releasing steam. But what she wanted to know is more than that, because she harassed them sexually. So she abused them sexually, not only with just regular curses. And I'm going to give you one example. So when they said, "You're a bitch," Siri said, "I'd blush if I could." So this answer is not, it's by design. It's not like I didn't understand. It's by design. Yeah. Some designer from the Siri Apple team decided that that's a good answer. Alexa said, "Well, thanks for the feedback." And Google was, "My apologies, I don't understand." So she apologized for being insulted. And when we're thinking about, when we're talking to these devices and we're talking about a relationship or someone that we talk to, are we getting used to talking abusively to someone else? And we cannot really ignore the fact that they are all women. You know, Cortana, Alexa, and even the default voice for the assistant is a woman. And most people would say, okay, because we love to hear women voices. We're used to our mother's voice when we were on the moon. Most people prefer to have higher pitched voices. But actually, they are like your virtual servants. And are we used to talking this way to a woman and to our servants? And this like makes me think about the power of this when it's so pervasive in our lives.
It's also because I remember in England. Well, I'm just going to interrupt now. You invited me, right? So I'm just
Sure, feel
barge
free.
you.
Feel free. I'm with you.
In the UK, that little kids were so they would go to school and they would just pretty much just give teachers orders and stuff because they were so used to just ordering Alexa around. So they were, and then
Right. They are
Alexa made
bossing
them
her.
say please, right? So can you turn on the
Yeah.
lights, please, Alexa?
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, most people will, if they're used to, they will say please, please, and say thank you. If you're used to, like, they will ask something from Alexa and say please, and then thank you, although, she will do it without it.
Yeah.
But it goes the other way around too, right? So if you're getting used to,
I'm way too polite to Google. It's terrible.
yeah, but you're talking to it like someone because you're getting used to saying thank you when you get what you need, right? So
yeah.
It's a good thing. And one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the connection between voice and emotions. So the emotional states we have is delivered through our voices, through our talks, and the way we breathe. So when we are very tense, our muscles there are more tension in the muscles, and we have more energy, and we're breathing in a certain way, and our body posture is different. So when we hear the voice, we know that somebody is relaxed or very intense. If he doesn't have to shout, we know that he's intense, we know that he's in tension, we know he's stressed, and we can understand emotions just by hearing what we say. I have like a very good friend that I talk to each morning, and just from her hi in the morning, I know if she has a bad day or not. I guess that many of you know that. So it's the way that we are in our bodies. We have to breathe while we're talking. By the way, the assistant doesn't have to breathe, but we need to design it as if it has to breathe after 7, 8 words. If not, it will be like going on forever and forever. But we're as human beings, when we are in a certain state, our voice conveys that to the people around us. And we have lots of knowledge from the voice about the emotional state of another, and we are doing like the emotional connections the same as we're doing with people with technology connected to voice. For example, we know that people are talking to Siri as a psychologist. So I think it's 2 years ago, Apple usually don't convey any like ideas, that they are not sharing anything, but we know that they looked for an engineer that understands psychology when they look for people to work with them, for them. And we know that this is due to the fact that people are really used to talking to Siri as a friend or as an advisor or mentor or a guide. And people need to understand that they are related to other people when they talk to them. And in a study not long ago, they found that when we are talking to someone, for the first time, we are usually, as a human being, we are more aroused, so we are more sweating in our hands. So when they measured that, when we are talking to Alexa or a virtual assistant for the first time, it's the same. We're emotionally aroused the same way as we talk to someone new. And it was especially important when she told a joke. So if you said something to Alexa and then she told a joke, it was much higher. And it's a GSR level where it increased as if it was a new person for us. So for us, it's just the same. And because we're wired for a human connection and not to talking to anyone else. And we know that these assistants are much smarter than we're starting to think about it. They can detect our mood. And it gives us more like a human quality to our talk, especially when they understand us. They are not that good at pronouncing emotion. We are not hearing emotion when we hear them, but they understand us when we're talking with emotions in our voice. And it could improve the connection with the customers. For example, if you want to if you're talking to Alexa and she hears like your example that you're a bit sad and you're talking more like down and you're walking slowly in the room, she could detect that you're moving in the room, right? So she knows that you're down, and she could just say, maybe I'll send Haagen-Dazs to your house. What do you say? Maybe it will make you happy if I'll show you this movie on Netflix. What do you say? So the communication is so customer oriented, the connection is so human like, and more than that, let's say she's going with you, I'm calling her she, but let's say Alexa is going with you to your car. She could see that you're very intense and you're cursing all the other drivers on your way. So she could prevent reckless driving when she knows that we are very intense and we have a bad day at our way to work. Although now most people will have less time on their road, maybe because they're working from home. But let's say they do drive home as usual. They'll have this someone sitting next to them and knowing what their mood is on the road. And it could really monitor our health. So we can find lots of health issues from the way we talk. Not only breathing related disease, it could be other things and conditions that you have, and the AI could analyze your voice and see what kind of disease is related to each pattern of voice. And more than that, he knows me. So he knows that usually I speak in a certain way, and now it's changed, the pattern changed, so maybe it says something about my mental or physical health.
Yeah. So there's the because I know the one where Alzheimer's is pretty easy to detect, right? Where it's like that's such a rigid pattern, but so it could detect, oh wait, there's probably some Alzheimer going on, but just you changing from your regular baseline would just tell us something is off. I don't know what it is, but just go see a doctor.
So Alzheimer is really obvious because it's a cognitive disease. So once you forget words and you're pronouncing them differently, or you're building a sentence differently, so it means that something's wrong with your cognitive understanding of language. Or if she needs to say something again and again and again, it means that she was not understood in the beginning, right? But it could be much more than that. You could have anxiety, depression, any kinds of somebody is a smoker and maybe his breathing is shallower right now. What does that mean? And people who are has a degenerative disease, maybe they're getting slower and slower. Maybe something is wrong with them. So it's much more than just the way you structure your sentence. And I want to tell you about, like, could you imagine that you had a fight with your partner and you're sitting in the living room?
Yes.
And then, you can imagine that. And you can just imagine somebody just saying, excuse me, I have a tip. I have a small advice for you in the middle of your fight. Could you imagine that? Somebody coming to your private places and just having, like, I have something to say, right? So we already have that. So Alexa and Google already have the capacity to understand the connection between couples and see if they are struggling, if they have an argument. And even more than that, he could have like the understanding that they need a mitigation or a guidance here. And even relationship coaching could be done from there. So they can understand that the way you talk to each other is different right now, and it's intense. And the use of words or curse or the way you express your words is really, they could know that you're angry. And they could mitigate that between two people because they know both of you. They know you and your partner and what is your regular tone of relationship. And they could help you if you want. So we talked about all these abilities and the connection with emotions, but many people are afraid of that, and they're thinking about their privacy, and it's not surprising. So researchers created an AI that could delete the layer of emotions from what we are delivering to these devices. So it's just text to speech and not more than that. And it really makes sense because not everyone would like you to be inside, like in the middle of the sentence when you're fighting and says like, I see you're angry right now. Like, it's like maybe too much information for you. So it really makes sense that people will be worried about the abilities of these devices. And the power of emotion is used very, very like frequently in our lives, and we see it very seldomly in our in marketing. So when people want to sell us something, they want to see our emotions, and we see it in advertising, and we see it when we're going to a shop and the music is changing because they want us to buy more, and we see it in so many other aspects of marketing. And the emotional impact is very, very prominent. So if your customers are feeling something for your brand, they are much more likely to be loyal to your brand. It's much more effective to relate to them from their emotions more than any other aspect. So if you're very good at what you do, or maybe you're very fast at what you do, or maybe one of your technical characteristics is very strong, it's not as much as like emotional connections with your customers. And we know that they want to influence our emotions. So you could just imagine what that means when you have someone that really, really knows you for years, and now he could hack your emotion, actually. By the way, I heard that Google wanted to purchase Fitbit in more than 2 billion.
Yeah.
And it's related to that because it's just hacking your, they know how you talk, they know where you are, they know who your friends are. And when they get your physical characteristics and measurements, it's just hacking your brain. That's it. So they know that you're very excited, and it's a good time to suggest some kind of ad for you. So this is why the European nation, I think a group from Europe, I don't remember exactly, is trying to prevent this merge. Because of the information that we have about emotion and in general, the data, the immense data that Google has.
But it's already a done deal, right?
I know that they are trying to prevent. What they're saying in Google, that it's only for the devices and not for the data, but I don't know.
Yeah, because I used to have like a Chinese cheap Fitbit ripoff thing, and then I decided when Google picked up Fitbit, I was like, I'll get a Fitbit because then at least I know my data is at the same place, with Google rather than having it splashed around.
Yeah, you're right. But when you're thinking about, I met. I was in Austria, I think like half a year ago. It looks like 3 years ago, but it was half a year ago. And we had a conference, a usability world conference. And one of the speakers was from head of research in Instagram. And I talked to him, and like most people are not aware that Instagram and WhatsApp and Facebook is the same, Facebook bought Instagram and WhatsApp. And for sure, they said, we're not doing any usage of the data that you have in WhatsApp, for example. We're surely doing ads in Instagram from Facebook, but do they use the information? So I asked him, where is the server? So where is the data gathered? So they are all in the same building in San Francisco, and it's all in the same servers. So yeah, that's it. So we know that emotions makes people buy, and we know that kids already buy with the voice assistants, and they are intending to buy in the future with Alexa. So it's already here. It's not like it's not a special thing. We already have that, and it's a trend which is growing. Kids are really getting used to that. For me, I have some speakers, and because I'm part of the Google thing, so I have lots of Google. One of them is the Hub, which is a smart screen, and the kids really love it, and I'm very pleased that they're talking English to it. But it's really obvious for me that they will just ask something in the future and get it, and it's very strong in Alexa because it's connected to the Prime, Amazon Prime, which is like getting everything you want sold to you from a voice device, which is like, it really makes sense. So I'm more or less in the middle before I'm talking about the design part. Do you have like anyone asking something? Or
Let's see. No, I think it's mainly so far me asking questions and interrupting you. We did have a bunch of people join us in the middle, so that's good. Is there any
yeah,
questions right now, or do we just keep it going and keep it flowing? I guess
you
we'll
can
just,
write your questions and we can answer in the end if you have like
yeah,
any. Yeah.
we can do that too.
Yeah,
Just put
you're
them in the
doing a very
chat.
good job, Hans. I'm very pleased with your questions and you're engaged.
I know what it's like to just sit in the room and just talk to a screen. It's very awkward. So it's
You're
always good
right.
to have people.
You're right.
Yeah. So when people have
Okay.
questions, just put them in the chat, and we'll sort of
Yeah,
address them
very,
now or later. All right.
very good. So let's think about how can we design this connection, this relationship. So first, we all know about creating a persona, creating someone like, who is this Siri? Who is she? So most people are aware that she has this voice, and sometimes she tells jokes, but it's more than that. She has a character, she has friends. They decide what is Alexa's hobby, who is she talking to, she has a cousin or not. So she has a character, a full character, even if you don't know about it. When they built Alexa or the Google Assistant or Siri, doesn't matter, they built someone. So there is this character, which is the assistant persona. Usually when we're coming from design, when we're saying persona, we're talking about the end user. And here we have two. We have the end user and we have the Alexa who talks to the end user. So when we're talking about designing for voice, we're designing this Alexa Siri thing, this assistant. And we need to think about who is this person. So let's imagine that you have a running voice application, which really makes sense because when you're running, you don't want to watch your device and to see any screen. You just want to ask if you're fast enough, how long do we have, what's my heartbeat, so forth. It really makes sense to talk to this device. And we can just imagine who will be the one that trains us. Who is the trainer? Will it be like a good friend that we love, just he's done like marathons in the past and I trust him? Will it be like a cousin that I trust him, but he's not a really good runner, he's just telling jokes and I enjoy his friendship? Or would it be like a very intense guide, like a mentor that will drive me to my limits? Who will it be? And what is the connection between you and this other person? And what's the real question is, what will he make me feel? So when I talk to a cousin, I feel very relaxed because we're more or less in the same level. But when I talk to my guide or my coach, it's much different because he's like above me. He will tell me things to do. I need to make him please. I want to do whatever he says. I trust him. So what is the connection and what will make me feel the way I want to feel while I'm running? And that's the question between what are we building, who are we building it for, who will talk to me, and what is the connection we want to build between us and this assistant. And how do we build this feeling? How do we build this connection? We're using the voice, the tone, the words, the phrases that we use, the pace, the energy level, the style of how we talk. You know, people have very different styles of where they choose to build the grammar, what words they are using, and what is the emotional state that is being produced to us. So when we are talking to someone, when we hear it, what is his emotional state when he's talking to us? And I want to give you an example of just, I hope that you hear it well. So now we're trying to see if you're hearing well.
This is the exciting moment, everybody.
Yeah, I hope you will hear it. So just listen to this one. You heard that?
No, I hear something like I hear the sound trying to get through, but I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so I don't know how to change the Zoom thing. It's like, I think it's connected to the Zoom. I don't know. I don't have any way to do that.
Try again, maybe.
Yeah, I'll do it again.
No,
You heard that?
no,
No.
very in the back. I guess you have to imitate it now. You have to do it.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. You know what? It's uh, I didn't do it. Nobody saw me do it. Can't prove anything. You know this sentence?
Yeah, I've heard it before. Say it again.
It's Bart Simpson.
Uh,
So what I'm saying is that when you hear it, and you know when we put it on Zoom, I'll place a link so you can hear him talk, right?
yeah.
So he has this really jumping voice of a small kid, and you know that he's jumping and running while he says that. So I didn't do it. Nobody saw me. You can't prove anything. So it's not only what he says, it's the way he says it. And you get all his personality from this very squeaking, childish voice and the way he talks. So he makes me feel like, you know, like talking to a kid, that he's very funny and very energetic. And the connection is with this kid, this very specific kid. And most people are really not really aware of how good we are with voices. So we can really recognize easily the voices that we heard in the past, and of course people with that we are in connection to, but not only characters that we heard in the past. And we have emotional reaction if even if we don't recognize the voice itself, if we're not aware of recognizing it.
Yeah.
So already brands are using these presenters, in this case is Serena Williams for Nike, and it's just like one step afterwards. Like, could you talk to Serena Williams on your Nike website? Will she help you decide which running shoes you want? Or what is the best tennis bat that you could use? So it's like taking what you already have in visual and connecting it to something which is bigger than that, because it's an emotional connection with a person, a whole person. So we know how Serena looks like, we know who she is, and now we can just talk to her. So it really makes sense to use that. And this emotional connection with users is something that it really, I think we're just a few years from there. Let's say that Kim Kardashian will build a fashion app and you can ask her how to buy her, you know, she has an underwear
Oh yeah.
line, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
she has it.
Obviously, I know. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan. Yeah.
you are.
I know.
So,
I know more about the Kardashians than I should. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm very proud of you, Hans. Another good star you got here. So let's say that you see football when you're talking to Messi, for example, and he will tell you about the players and what's going on with the game and so forth. And Jamie Oliver could cook with you, or Gandalf could play a voice game with you. So we have this connection with people and characters. We just need the ability to connect with them further and talk to them. So it's really easy just to derive to have like a few hours of recording and to take the voice of Messi, for example, and to use it.
What are some of the risks? Because I'm thinking that like Gandalf obviously is a fictional character.
Yeah.
Which
for us is a character.
Yeah, which makes it easier in a way to do that, right?
Why is it easier?
Well, no, for me as a user, maybe it doesn't matter as much because I'll have the emotional connection, but I can imagine Lionel Messi, his manager, sort of being very reluctant for him career-wise and stuff as well. Like, I feel like there's also like downsides.
I don't know, like if he has a contract to sell shoes, why wouldn't he agree to have specific phrases used with his voice? So he could limit not saying specific things and not using it for specific aims. But I'm not worried about the wealth of Lionel Messi in general.
Well, I am, because I've got a fine for dodging taxes. So you use all the help. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, like in entertainment, you have so many characters. You know, one of the very successful voice applications is SpongeBob, and they use all the sounds from the TV show and all the characters, and it's really funny and engaging. And it's like a step from using a real person voice. It's just like a better way to use them and the connection with them. And we already use that to advertise, and they have lots of contracts. It's just another type of a contract, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not worried about the lawyers too. They will find a way.
they'll find out. They always do.
Okay, so let's imagine the future. Okay, and I have another voice here, but I'll skip it. So let's imagine that you had a really, really bad day at work and you made a mistake and your boss is really angry at you and everybody blames you for doing like some kind of a very big mistake. And you're worried because maybe you'll get fired, and in the middle of the coronavirus you don't want to get fired and you don't want to be a job seeker right now in the market, and you're very, very afraid of what will be in your career, and you're frustrated and you're going home and you're opening your house and somebody's waiting at your home, and then he says, you cannot hear it. Okay, but let's say he tells you, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, and anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. Okay, so do you know who he is? So I'm not doing the character really well, but
Yeah, Wieger wins this one. Yoda, yeah, in the
yeah,
chat.
of course. Fear is the path to the dark side. So you can just imagine, you can select who will be your friend, who will talk to you, who will wait for you when you're at home. And you can just imagine, you don't need to do anything for him. For when you have friends right now, when they go abroad, they give you to take care of their cats, or they want you to listen to them when they're sad, or maybe lend you some money. Like, no, you don't need to do anything. You will decide who will be your friend. He will know you. He will know what you like. He will know what you want to be, what you want them to say to you. How do you react to them? What will make you feel safe and better and relaxed? So he knows everything, and he doesn't forgets nothing. So he remembers anything, and he's more human, and he has a personality, and I can decide who is this personality. So I can decide that I want Yoda or Kim Kardashian. I'll decide who will be my friend, and he will go with me from my home to my office to my car, and he will be wherever I want. And he has this character, and he knows how to react to my emotions, and I have a very good relationship with him. So what I'm saying is that voice will be much more personalized and customized for my own needs. It will react to my emotions. It will revolutionize the way we experience things in general. Right now, when you're entering your home and saying, hey, Google, I want to hear music, it's like magic. And he will learn and remember what we're saying, and he will be much more human. More than that, he will convey a personality for a brand, for someone. So if you want to learn more, you're invited to visit Invincible Innovation, which is my new project, and my LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to talk to you in any questions you might have.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was really,
Sure.
I really like this very much, because a lot of the things that you talk about, I know, but you speak, like, you talk about it in a different way, more I think, more just adding the word emotion and making it come to life with some of the examples that you had, maybe see things differently or something. I was very pleased with that.
Sure.
Do we have people? I'm sure Wieger has questions. Wieger always has questions. He's here all the time.
Yeah, feel free.
And I think Cynthia might be happy to join in on something here as well, because Cynthia has done a lot of persona work as well. And she actually is the voice of a few things. And she's unmuting herself. So this is exciting, Cynthia.
This is a hell of a build-up, Hans. Thank you. I'll send the commission check to the usual place.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
No, I agree. This idea that, the voice becomes the brand, and it speaks to you in a very different way than most of us are used to brands speaking at you.
Right.
It's a really fascinating field, and one with a lot of potential.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that especially in entertainment, we're almost there, because they have the characters, they have the sounds, they have the legal rights, and it's just one step from there. And from there, we can do more than just entertainment. But it's a really good beginning, and they have the expertise, you know, like to do music and voice and sound. They know all of that.
Yeah.
So,
I
and the
was
talents.
because who do you know of is already doing very interesting work in entertainment? Is there some brands that already stand out that you've?
You know, the series Stranger Things.
Mhm.
So they created a voice assistant that will be in parallel to the show, and you could talk to one of the characters. So one of the characters has this like wooden house, and he talks in a walkie-talkie, you know, and you could talk to him in the walkie-talkie and get answers. And it was one of the things that when they launched the new episodes, they created this app, and it was in parallel to what they have done in the show. And for me, it just makes sense. You want to talk to the characters, you want to go into the experience and to be part of the show itself, and the line of story and of the story. So it really
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, with these things like I've you know, every time I try to do something, it gets very complicated very quickly, right? So how do you keep it small? And then a couple of weeks ago, I had a call with some people that were, you know, in the entertainment stuff, and just like the you could just tell with the experience that they have in general of you know, creating stuff like this, that all the
Yeah,
challenges that I saw, they already had solved, and so it's like complementary in a way, right?
yeah,
Where we
for
had like
sure.
design experience, but they just knew how to nail the entertainment bit of it.
Yeah, they know how to do it, and they have the talents. You know, you need talented people to do sounds, to do music, and to be a voice character. They have all the people doing the animation movies, sounds, voices. So they have the talents. They just need to manage the technology, which is not that complex, and they
Yeah.
will do wonderful things if they understand it well.
Yeah, and have you seen investments in and budgets going up maybe in the last year? It's something that we see with some of our clients, where it went from like a,
Mm-hmm.
you know, gimmicky innovation part to, okay, we're now committing to this big trend.
I think that you see it mainly in the US. I just had a talk with a major player in US, and you see more and more people doing that, and it just makes sense because they see it all around. You know, like in Israel, people hardly know what is a voice
Mm.
assistant. They have it in their mobile, but they'll do it just to ask for directions and to ask like small questions, and that's it. But in the US, it's so used so much that they know the potential. And
Mhm.
you see they're more connected to the big companies like Amazon and Google and Apple. So they have the ability there. In general, I would say that there is a big interest in it. But there are like two things that they need to solve in order to make it much better. One is the discoverability. How do you find these experiences? And the second one is monetizations. So like how will when you had in the beginning of mobile, you know, like the developers could make money in the beginning from the advertising that they had in their app. So in the beginning, every app had this small banner which was very ugly but made money. Right now, they did not really find a better way for that yet.
Yeah.
Although interactive radio is almost there, podcasting is really, really growing, especially now. And it's like, it's just finding the way to do it well. And once you have better professionals out there doing better applications and having better ways to get discovered and to make money out of it, it will grow much more for sure.
Yeah, that's also a good point. One of the things that I see now is that companies are, first it was like, oh, should we do something with voice, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, is this an interface worth exploring? But now they're coming to the realization, wait, if it is, no, it's the tech, they'll get that figured out. So then, you know, voice is, every interface that we had before voice was actually just something, you know, that tried to be as natural, you know, a bit more natural and a bit more easier for people to use. But once you get
Yeah,
the voice, there's not an interface beyond voice,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
Which makes it very obvious now that for people that like, oh wait,
yeah,
we should be there, and particularly also
yeah.
because there's limited real estate in voice.
Sure.
which
And I think that many companies are struggling with the use case. Once they understand what is the right use cases to use it, they will do it much more. Right now, it's like so new and the potential is not that obvious for them. But once they know how to do it well, they will do it much more. And especially now, like we have like some late bloomers, I would say. and 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 you know, like especially now we're talking about the COVID crisis, not touching things, talking to something that will open the door for me, or you'll do something that don't want to touch. Accessibility. People are more like closed at home. They are very lonely. What about the experience of being alone at home and feeling like it was more related to old people in the beginning when we talked about voice friendship,
yeah.
and now we see so many people are alone at home and they don't have to be old. And so there it's so the potential is so big and it's growing. And I think that as much as we see that technology and digital transformation is growing, and what I see in innovation, people are more like interested in doing things differently and doing things online and doing things digitally. It's the same thing. People are more interested in doing things without touch, in doing things in a very human, personal way, in having a friend out there. So it's
Right.
it's it's
Right.
growing.
And what do you see as one of the main pitfalls that you've seen companies make in terms of strategy, use case selection when they started, tipping their toes into the
Um,
water, in the voice water, I guess.
I would say that as I see the domain, you know, I'm so old that I remembered when it started to have the interfaces with screens. So most people would just create it. When I started doing design and user experience and products, we would come to a client after they finished all the project. So the
Yeah.
product is like done, and then they found out that users cannot use it. So the users are to blame, and we were supposed to fix it. So they didn't understand, why should you design things? It's like we know what we want it to be, so we created that, and that's it. And you see it the same way in voice. So we know what the intent, we know what the reaction would be, we know what we want to ask. So why do we need to think about it holistically as a design, as a full conversation, as a play, I would say? Why would you think about it this way? So you see that many of the applications and actions you see and skills that you see out there, they are not designed in any way, and that's why the experience is not that good.
Yeah.
So it's just the beginning, but it will get there.
Yeah. So more emphasis on design. It's very much what you say to get to better use case or more
Yeah.
successful use cases.
Yeah,
Oh,
because it's very derived from technology. So it's very oriented to technology. And how do I get all the reactions and I gather them? And how do I collect the data? Because actually, when you're designing this kind of apps, it's only the beginning. You know, it's like the baseline. The real work starts when you publish it and you get all the reactions and you tune it and optimize it, right? So
yeah.
this is what they need to really understand. And if you don't design it in the beginning to understand who you're talking to, what's the right use case, how do you connect with people, what will they expect, what will make them come back, which is very important.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's because a lot of people, they go live with something, think, oh, we'll collect data and that will improve incrementally, right? But if you
Yeah,
go live with something that's very terrible, then you're just going to be improving something very terrible. But if you focus on design a little more, then you're going to get, much better data from your users because they'll have a better experience. They won't get frustrated,
right.
and that, you're going to improve much faster as well. The sort of the baseline that companies start with, is very much off, because then all the data you're going to collect is just from disappointed,
Yeah,
frustrated people, right? So
yeah, of course. In general, people are like, when you're saying AI, machine learning, they think, yeah, we'll do something and the data will gather itself, whatever, and understand itself, right? So if you're not doing things well, the data will not collect itself and it will not be analyzed itself. You need to know exactly what you're looking for. And if not, you'll have lots of work afterwards. And first, we're doing something for human beings. So what is the use case that they will decide to use that instead of typing, instead of watching it on their TV or on the screen? What will make them do that? And not more than, it's not only start with using that, continue using that and coming back to this application and really enjoying what you're doing and giving an extra value of what you're creating. If you're not thinking about these questions in advance, it's really hard to do it well.
And I love it as you go over that list of things you need to be thinking about. Like it's like 10 things on your list, but it wasn't an engineer involved in any of them, right? Which is funny.
No, because that's exactly what I'm saying. So in when I started doing like product design, most people would just build it. They will build the application and that's it. And they said, okay, it's functional, it's working. We did the test, it's all working. We have no bugs, so it should work, right? Yeah, so it should, but like theory and really real life is not the same.
Yeah. So. And on that note, I guess we're coming to a conclusion here. Very quiet audience today. So we'll be. Let's see. Oh, Marcos Martinez says, "Thank you very much. Super interesting.
You're welcome.
Excellent presentation. Very inspiring." Yeah, and we will be. The audio will be in a podcast. We'll put the videos online. We'll put them in the academy and some stuff on YouTube. And Malik is happy. Yes.
Sure.
Anyone else want to say? Give us a thumbs up if you liked today.
Yeah. That where I'm going right now, because we're in the closure, so I can tell you. So we're going all the family together. Yeah. I have 4 kids, so it's like a big family, because I met my husband 25 years ago.
Today?
In India, right? Yeah. So we were backpackers then. So we're gonna celebrate right now.
That is so cool. So were you both like at some yoga resort? Because that's what everybody told me that everybody from Israel, you go to India, you go do meditation and yoga.
Oh, this is what they tell you.
Yeah. Oh, they just high, and get high.
Yeah, so we were like not that and not that. We were backpackers. We enjoyed the nature, so we were trekking there. And then I came with someone, and he came with someone, and we decided to do a Friday evening together, because for us, like the celebration is in Friday evening, not on Sunday like you. And then that's it. And we're together like 25 years. I feel like my aunt talking, like 25 years.
That is a long time, but it is so cute. Now you should actually sort of put backpacks on tonight and go for a walk and go.
Yeah, you're right. He will be very pleased with that. So I'll go and change, and I'll do that.
But that's why you dressed up, because you need to look low. Yeah, that's so nice. Yeah, well, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, people are leaving. Well, then I again want to say thank you and enjoy your evening then. And
thank you. It was lots of fun.
Upwards and onwards to the next 25 years, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Conversational Academy.